Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Paranchikhani Vratana Swayambhu
पराञ्चिकानि
स्वयंभूः
Tasmat Parang Pashyati Nantaratman
तस्मात् परां पश्यति
पश्यति नान्तरात्मन्
नान्तरात्मानं
Kaschidhira Pratyagatmanamaikshate
कच्चिद्दीरप्रत्यगात्मानमैक्षत्
Avritta Chakshur Amritatvamichan.
आवृद्धचक्षुरमृतत्वं त्वमिच्छन्
A child is born and very soon starts learning about anatma, objects of the world. The parents are delighted as the child recognizes each of the objects of the world, and they in fact teach the child. So you have all these books. So you show them a whole lot of animals. What animal is this? What fruit is this? What vegetable is this? And the child lists those names. The parents are delighted. Child also then learns body parts, eyes, ears, so on. The parents, particularly the mother, teaches them all the objects of the world. This is how we learn everything, all the non-eye objects of the world. This non-eye objects, initially we start with sthula objects. And then slowly, as we mature, we also learn sukshma objects, concepts which are not tangible, emotions, feelings. And we get to learn them, learn of them simply through usage. Anger, concepts, hypothesis, ideas, all these are intangible. I think the most intangible of all them is love. We just have a intuitive feeling about it. We know, but if we ask to define, everybody has his own definition. So all of us identify objects, and then we know that I identify this object. And to identify these objects, we use the five senses and all the associated things. We recognize hunger, for example, the very child, the time baby is born, baby recognizes hunger, may not recognize anything else. Sakshi. Sakshi pratyaya. And to do this, we depend entirely on the five senses, or at least largely on the five senses. So we all are so sure of ourselves because of these five senses. I know this is a pen because I can see the pen. I know this is a black colored pen because I can see the color. And that is how we grow. And we are more and more curious because the objects in the world are infinite. So we are constantly learning, constantly knowing about objects. Rarely ever does a person question the subject. Who recognizes these objects? Who is this person? And to do that, we initially have no idea what to use other than the five senses. So based on the inputs of the five senses, we have got the knowledge of everything in the Jagat. Not everything, but many things in the Jagat. Some things are important to us, we make extra effort to learn. Some things we can ignore, we're indifferent to. Some things I don't even want to know. But very rarely do I look at saying, who is this who knows about the objects? Who is trying to find out about these objects? Somewhere there's a universal assumption about who the I is, the knower is. And we ride along with it. Very, very few people, the thought occurs, I know this fruit. Who is the I who knows this fruit? I know this hand. Who is the I who knows this hand? I know my mind. I think I have a mind. I know this mind. But who is the I who knows the mind? Very, very rarely does anybody question that. And when that question does arise also, the answer is not readily available. I go with what is accepted by everybody. So this is the starting point of the problems we have in knowing the true nature of I. The whole thinking behind Vedanta is to find out this nature of I. Because that is where the source of the error is. That is why if everybody could use these senses to examine the nature of I, as we do with objects, there will be no problem. Very quickly, many people will arrive at the nature of I. Maybe with some help. But what has Bhagavan done? Bhagavan has destroyed these senses. Why do I say destroyed? He has made them outward looking, extrovert. And therefore, I can only use the senses to check what is outside. All the senses will tell me about various things outside. And my dependence on these senses is so high, almost complete, that I can't think of any other source of knowledge. This is my source of knowledge, universally accepted. I've also seen that I gain more and more and more by using these senses, and of course the buddhi to back them up. The same buddhi which has no other feed, the only feed is from here, has to examine what is this I? Who is the I who wants to know or who knows about these objects? That buddhi has no input on that. Buddhi can only process what is available in terms of input, like any other computer system. Today's AI depends largely on what has been fed to it. So if you ask your chat GPT very high-level questions on Advaita philosophy, it tends to spew some nonsense. Right? That's because that's all the input it has. It will all depend on the input. If the input is not there, how is the brain going to process what is the nature of I? That's why Shastra says, Swayambhuhu Bhagavan has destroyed these senses by making them only outward looking. Has no capacity to give you any data about I. So even if such a thought comes to the mind, no data. And whatever data I collect from the Jagat is obviously false, nonsense, as far as I is concerned. And therefore we go back to ego. Garbage in, garbage out. That's why he calls it Pratinat. Destroyed. There's obviously purpose behind it. There's nothing in this Jagat without a purpose. While the data collection has been made outward looking, Buddhi has the power to question. Where am I going to get the data from for if I want to know I? I'm not going to get it from these. So it is available, that instrument is available to us. But we don't use it. So we have a big dosha. What is the dosha? Karpanya dosha. Arjuna recognizes it. I am behaving like a miser. I have the buddhi. I don't use it. A miser has a lot of money, doesn't use it. Human beings have buddhi, don't use it. Therefore, karpanya dosha. So this mantra points out why you cannot figure out I. Why is it Gouda? Because we depend entirely or predominantly on the five senses. And not only that, what do we do as mankind? We try and enhance the capacity of these senses more and more and more. Use the capacity of the senses to examine the world, collect the data to enhance these themselves. For sight, we have microscopes and telescopes. For everything we have. For ears, we have hearing aids and other instruments. And we think we are progressing. We are, in a sense, we are progressing only within the realm of objects. We are progressing there. But that's all the progress we know. So the first obstacle that this mantra points out is our dependence on the senses and the fact that these senses have been destroyed by Bhagavan by not making it capable of getting us data on I. Without recognizing that there is possibility of questioning and examining I and questioning where else can I get this data from. First. Then he says, some people, kashchit dhiraha, who then start examining, saying, where can this come from? How can I make some sense out of the error that I've made? Why would they do that? Why would they all? Everybody's happy doing whatever everybody else is doing a lot of karma, earning money, earning fame, earning a lot of artwork. Aesthetically, I'm improving. Why would you want to try and look at anything else? Amrtatvam icchanna. Most of humanity doesn't recognize that there is any other possibility at all. Nor do they recognize that there is a possibility of error in what I have assumed. And because you don't recognize this, you don't make any progress in that direction. Most humanity goes along, except a handful of people like this group who have said, look, there has to be something more. This cannot be the end. You remember that famous metaphor, Pluto's metaphor? You know about it, no? When a group of people, this is what the great philosopher Pluto, living inside, deep inside caves, in a world of shadows. That's all they knew. Till one young fellow said, look, this cannot be the totality. There has to be something more. And he went searching for it. He walked away, walked and walked and walked and walked and walked and walked and walked till he saw light at the end of the tunnel, literally. Came out at the end of the tunnel and saw light, color, sounds, and recognized that there is so much more. We are only a very small thing we are seeing. because he's got that curiosity to know, because he said this cannot be the totality, he went looking for it. Others didn't. And for him to convince the others is not easy. Therefore, when you have discussions with other people, even with your own family, and other people have shown no interest in Vedanta, you will find that they're not convinced. You cannot easily convince them. Unless there's already a spark there, if you tell them there is something more than whatever else everybody is doing, it will never catch. That is why what happens is when you started studying Vedanta, after a few years, you find that you are not really fit even to have discussions with other people. They only want to talk about stock exchange, movies, politics, right? Very soon you lose interest. So those are all tuchha, alpa. That's what happens. So the first obstacle is the senses themselves and the fact that we depend on these senses for all our knowledge. And the second is Amrtatvam. There is no knowledge of the fact that there can be something more than this. In fact, I told you about this little exercise I have done with people. Ask people, what is your life goal? 99% of the life goal is Laukika. I want to be net worth of 100 crores by the time I'm 40. These are all actual things people have feedback, okay? And the most interesting one of which was is I live in a 2-bedroom flat. I want to build a 3-bedroom flat. Really, somebody said this in as many words. All are Laukika. Then you ask them, why do you want that? They come up with something else. You ask them, why do you want that? They come up with something else. Ultimately, they all, if you make them think, will arrive at the fact that I want to be happy. There also they stop. I want to be happy. Then you want to ask them, when do you want to be happy? When I'm with my girlfriend. Oh, so when she is not there, you want to be unhappy? No, I don't want to be unhappy. When do you want to be happy? I comes up with something or the other. And then say, where do you want to be happy? I will grant you happiness between 6:45 and 7:15 in the evening. Rest of the day I take no guarantee. It will go up and down, up and down. Is that acceptable? Think. What is this Amritattvam? Literal meaning is immortality. Is that what you're looking for? Is that immortality what you're looking for? That's a literal meaning. Mankind has been looking for this for a long time. All these alchemists we read about, they've all been looking for an elixir to extend life. Not possible. But they've not given up, they're still trying. Youth serum, I've read somewhere. you're 60 years old, youth serum, you will remain 40. I saw this on England, TV in England many years ago. Somebody had come up with a skin cream to remove wrinkles on the face, to look younger. And a lot of people bought because it helped. And then the discoverer and owner ran away. You know why? Because all those people who started using this started getting big wrinkles on the feet, on the legs. This is actually a case, true case of a wrinkle-free cream. And they tried to catch hold of the guy, interview him, he ran away. Then they discovered that one of the ingredients using was hippo urine. And you know how the hippo legs are, no? So these people started getting the same kind of wrinkles on their legs. We are all looking for the literal meaning of Amrtatvam. Of what? Of the Sharira. Not recognizing that Amrtatvam of the Sharira, the immortality of the Sharira is not possible. It has to go through the Shadvikara. Then what is Amrtatvam? Go back to understanding what is I. The I that you are assuming is wrong because you have never examined. When you examine it and recognize I, that is already immortal. Never born, never dies. That is immortality. Not the physical body. That is the second error. If you don't have that desire to gain that knowledge, jigyasa, which is moksha, which is amrtatvam, you're never going to get it. Moksha is not something which you find through serendipity, through accident. One has to look for it. Only a few people who look for this amrtatvam, understanding what this amrtatvam is, are likely to see this pratyagatma. Pratyagatmanam aikshat. They see the nature of pratyagatma, nature of I. I told you, pratyak literally means inner. But that's not what we mean. We know that there is Atma not bound by space, not bound by time. Therefore, also in the Sharira there is Atma. Outside the Sharira is also Atma. Between the things is also Atma. Brahman. That to recognize that, I need to say that I want to know. I must have the jignasa. So to start with, I say I want moksha. I don't know what moksha is, but I want moksha. I want amrtatvam. But I know it is not to do with a eternal sharira. So what is amrtatvam? I want to know. That's what I want to gain, moksha. And that becomes a quest, jignasa. So in this mantra, very beautifully it captures this, and all the related things are automatically they follow. If I want to know what this is, I recognize that this is not going to be got by gaining, by using more and more and more of these senses and giving more and more and more power to these senses, not going to happen. So these you eliminate. Then you go to the next step and say, okay, how do I find it? Then you look for pramana. Where is my source of knowledge for this? You approach the source of knowledge. Allow the source of knowledge, expose yourself to the source of knowledge. And then also, when the source of knowledge is there, and I recognize, but I am not a ready receptacle. More obstructions. I have to be an appropriate patra to receive that knowledge. I am not. More obstacles. So what do I do? Prepare yourself. Gain that sukshma buddhi. All for that, every prescription is available. Gain that sukshma buddhi. Once all these obstructions are addressed and removed, then nothing to prevent me from knowing the truth. Nothing. I would say that all of us have overcome the first couple of, we recognize ajnanam, first step of, we recognize that this ajnanam arises because of dependence on the senses. We recognize that there is something much, much more to gain, like that boy in the Pluto's metaphor. And then we also recognize that despite all these things, despite having access to the pramana, despite having access to a guru, it still doesn't register. So I work on preparation. Same source of knowledge tells me this is how you prepare. This is how you get the buddhi which is sharp to gain that, which is ready to absorb that. These other further obstacles have to be removed through the various processes already available to us. The bulk of which is, on the one hand, Shravana Manana and Nididhyasana. On the other hand, purification. I don't like the word purification, but getting ready, the mind ready through our actions of karma yoga with an attitude which is correct, so that eventually I'm ready. Both have to happen. Only one happens not good enough. I have to have this karma yoga, and along with that, my prayers, my meditation, all of that become important for getting the chitta naishchalyam and ekagrita buddhi. When that happens, these obstacles are removed, and I am now in a position to gain this knowledge. When will that happen? Whenever it happens. But be sure it will happen. The Tikakara, in fact, very nicely says that Yadi indriyani antarmukhani syuhu tada tani atmanishtataya amritatvam yuhu. If it were able to see the truth of the self, that is atmatat, that is samritatvam. Ataha indriyani bahirmukhani shushthani iti yat tat tesham hananameva kritam. By not allowing or giving the power to look inwards to the senses have been destroyed. Destroyed means what? Destroyed from the perspective of gaining the ultimate goal of humankind. Not destroyed in the sense of making continuous progress within the Jagat. That continues. Bashyam. Paranchi.
Paranchi.
Can you put that on, please? Parag Gachanti.
Parag Gachanti.
Sorry, Parag. It should be Parag Anchanti. Parangchi. So that which is outward going. Gachanti ti.
Gachanti.
Parag
Gachanti.
Anchanti is Parag Gachanti. Goes outward, it is extroverted. Khani.
Khani.
Tad upalakshitani.
Tad
Upalakshitani.
Shotradini indriyani.
Shrodradini Indriyani.
Khani ityuchyante.
Khani Dichyante.
Paranchi he is defined saying that which is external going. Parag anchanti. Parag gachanti. What is the opposite of parag? Pratyak. Not, doesn't look inward. What doesn't look inward? Khani. Khani literally means golakas. But here, Khani means Indriyani. So Bhashyakara says, Khani is a upalakshanam. Tad upalakshitani. What? Shotra adin indriyani. All the senses, ears, eyes, etc., all of them, these indriyani, khani ityuchyante. They are called khani. In this context, khani means indriyani. They are, because they are external looking, they will only report what is outside. They can't look inwards. Inward does not mean look inside the sharira. I mean, that is where again the error is. Thank God you don't want to look inside the sharira. But you want to look outward. You want to make sure that you see the pothole ahead of you. There's so many people are falling down and some of them are dying in potholes in Bangalore. Huh? If your Khani were not Paranchi, more people will die. So you don't want that happening. But because they are external looking, only, exclusively external looking. Bhagavan could have made it both external and internal looking. Internal, again, not the Sharira internal. Internal to eye. All these Shotra, Dini, Indriyani are called Khani. So these Khani, so each word is taken, Paranchi, Khani, the way, the style of Bhashyakara takes the word from the Mula Mantra, it explains it. Paranchi, Khani. These Khani, what about them? Tani.
Khani.
Paranchyeva.
Parancheva.
Shabdadi Vishaya Prakashanaya.
Shabdadi Vishaya Prakashanaya.
Pravartante.
Pravartante.
These Tani, these Khani, which are the senses, engage themselves with their objects, each one with its own object. Eyes with color and form, ears with sounds and so on. You don't want to miss a nice smell. And you want to go away from a smell which is not nice. I remember we were talking about this in the class once. When we used to travel from Delhi by train, those days we didn't have air-conditioned trains, okay? We used to go by steam engine, non-air conditioned, everybody fighting to sit on the window seat, And by the time you reach your destination, you're black all over, all the suit. But one of the things it does is that all the external sights, sounds, and smells are available to you. And as you pass the sugarcane belt of UP, you get those smell of molasses. Very difficult smell. You don't want that. You want to go away. You want the train to move as far and as fast away from there as possible. But nice smell, you want it to last. Shabdadi Vishaya Prakashanaya Pravartante. They only look, are engaged in the Vishaya to reveal those Vishaya. Like I said, you want them to reveal potholes. Otherwise, you will keep falling down. Sometimes you don't see them. You have these road speed breakers. Paint on them. And all the black looks the same. So sometimes you don't see it. You drive on that and go flying. You should be able to see them. You should be able to hear a horn coming from the other side. So they are designed to parancheva shabdadi vishaya prakashanaya pravartante. They only designed to reveal whatever is external. Really. They also reveal what is external within the Sharira. If you hurt yourself, there's a little bit of blood, you want to be able to see and do something about it. That's also external. Although it's in the Sharira, that's also external. Person feels that he's disturbed. First thing he's got to tell himself is, my mind is disturbed, not I am disturbed. And to be able to see that you're disturbed and do something about it if we can. That's also external. Everything is external. I was very angry in the morning. It's a recognition of something external. Although it doesn't use the five senses directly, it is a sakshi. Sakshi pratyaya. So they reveal all of these things because yasmat evam svabhavikani
एवं स्वाभाविकानि
tani rathunat
तानि
यत्र
himsitavan
हिंसितवान्
ananam kritavan
मननं कृतवान्
ityarthah.
इत्यर्थः।
Because this is like this, yasmad evam. This is the nature, svabhavikani. This is the nature of the kani, the senses. This being the nature of the senses, they have been Prithunat, destroyed. So Bhashyakara says destroyed, Prithunat, now he's taken that word, Himsitavan, have been harmed. And goes on to say Hananam Kritavan, they've been destroyed. Why do you say they've been destroyed? Destroyed from the purpose of one, the only human goal, moksha. They don't assist in that at all because they are external looking. Therefore, Hananam Kritavan. Other things are happening, like I said, from the point of view of not falling in the pothole, it is not Hananam. It is necessary. But that's a very minor. Bhagavan could have made it both external and internal looking, no? The ability to see the nature of I, he did. Therefore, Tani means these Khani. Yasmat, therefore, Evam Swabhavikani, this being the nature of sense of the senses, they have been as though destroyed. They become useless for purpose of gaining moksha. Big obstacle. If only my senses were capable of feeding data about I to my buddhi, I have very good buddhi. I would recognize I very quickly. But data is not available. Therefore, Tani himsitavan. Ananam kritavan. Bhagavan has destroyed these. Now, in Bhagavan, he takes up later. He says, they have been destroyed. All the senses have been destroyed. Who has destroyed them? Hey, who has created them has destroyed them, no? From the perspective of moksha, who has created them and destroyed them only for the purpose of transacting in this jagat. Not for anything more than that. So it is Ko asau
Ko asau
Swayambhuhu
Swayambhuः
Parameshwaraha
Parameshwarः
Swayameva Swatantro Bhavati Sarvada
स्वयमेव स्वतन्त्रो भवति
Bhavati
सर्वदा
sarvada
Na Paratantra iti.
न परतन्त्र इति.
iti.
Who has destroyed them? Ko asau. Who is the one who has destroyed them? It's Swayambhuhu. So again take the word Swayambhuhu from the mantra. Who is Swayambhuhu? Actually, we can look at Swayambhuhu in two ways. Normally, all beings are born of karma, correct? All beings are born of karma. But that which is not born of karma, but born on its own, can be called Swayambhuhu. Everything is born of karma. Born of karma to exhaust certain karma phala. So appropriate sharira is given, the sharira is born. But something like an avatara purusha is not born of karma. Actually, it is not born of its own karma. How is an avatara purusha born? Bhagavan said, no. I take birth every time adharma becomes excessive. When adharma becomes excessive, then the whole society of good people, they can't deal with it. They pray. That karma, that prayer, samashti prayer of all the people who are trying to pray to remove this adharma, is the cause for avatara purusha. Will you call it Swayambhuhu? I don't know. Not born of its own karma. Therefore, maybe you call it Swayambhuhu. But what about Brahmaji? How was he born? Brahmaji is Prathamaja, remember? Firstborn. How was he born? Swayambhuhu. Brahmaji is also called Swayambhuhu, Hiranyagarbha. Born of Paramatma's Sankalpa. It's something I should explain. Paramatma is Brahman. Brahman doesn't make any Sankalpa. then how do I say Brahman Sankalpa? Because anything downwards from Brahmaji belongs to the Mithya Jagat. We have to find a way of understanding this Jagat before we can understand Brahman. Therefore, we postulate Maya. And therefore we say Brahman made a sankalpa to create this Jagat. With everything, Surya, Chandran, everything. But starting with Brahmaji. So that Brahmaji is not born of Brahmaji's karma. Brahmaji is born of sankalpa. That is also called Swayambhuhu. But here, Bhashyakara says, Swayambhuhu Parameshwar. Here, Swayambhuhu would mean does not have a karanam. That means there is no time limitation. Was never born. Self-shining Swayambhuhu, that Parameshwara, which is not dependent on anybody else, not dependent on another karanam for its existence. Everything else is dependent on somebody else, some other karanam. Correct? Like I said, human beings, other beings are dependent on karma as a karanam. Avatara Purusha is also dependent on karma, but not its own karma. Brahmaji is dependent upon Parameshwara as a karanam. Parameshwara, then who? No karanam. Swatantra. Swayameva swatantraha bhavati sarvada. Not time dependent. Not pinpoint saying born so and so time. Brahmaji can get pinpoint. At the beginning of each kalpa, a new Brahmaji is born. But not by its own effort or karma. So this Swayambhuhu is born out of no dependence at all. Na paratantra iti. Not some other. So this Swayambhuhu, Acharya explains, is Bhagavan. So Bhagavan destroyed the senses in the sense that they are not available for moksha jnanam. And the sarvada means not time dependent. Tasmat
Tasmat
parang paragrupan
Paragrupan
anatma bhutan
Atma-bhutan
anatma bhutan. I heard somebody say atma bhutan. Anatma bhutan being anatma. Shabdadin
Shabdadi
pashyati
Pashyati
upalabhate
Upalabhati
upalabdha
Upalabdha
nantaratman
Nantaratman
na antaratmanam
Na Antaratmanam
ityartha.
Ityartha.
Therefore, tasmat, we saw yasmat earlier. Yasmat evam swabhavakani tani vratrinat himsitavan hananam kritavan ityartha. Because of this nature of these senses, being outward looking, it is as though Bhagavan has destroyed them, Bhagavan has made them useless for gaining moksha. Therefore, these being parak, external looking, parag rupan, anatma bhutan, they only see what is anatma. Tasmat parag pashyati, na antaratman. They see only what is outside. What is outside? Parag rupan anatma bhutan. All anatmas. External to I, the Atma. Not necessarily I, the Sharira. Paragrupan, Anatma Bhutan, Shabda Adin. All second case Bhavachanam. Therefore, Paragrupan, Anatma Bhutan, Shabda Ityadinan, all the objects of the senses. Each one, like I said, has its own object. Pashyati. They only see anatma. They only can know anatma. They can go more and more and more of knowing of the anatma. They can enhance the capacity of the senses to go deeper and wider into each anatma and know so much about the anatma. But the beauty is, however deep he goes and however wide he tries to spread his net, at no point can anybody ever know everything about any anatma. Remember the statement. A scientist, let us say a botanist, studies generally all plants and flowers, shrubs, plants, trees, everything. Then he narrows his field down to perhaps flowers. Then he narrows his field down to one particular flower. Then he becomes specialist in that flower of a certain variety. Then he becomes a specialist in perhaps one component of that flower. Deeper and deeper and deeper, he knows more and more about less and less. At no point can he make a statement, I know everything. True. I've seen these days doctors do specialization and then they do super specialization. So I heard somebody in Delhi on Surgeon Hospital, one doctor was a specialist for right knee, not just knee. Specialist. Know more and more about less and less of anatma. Therefore, paragrupan anatma bhutan shabdadin pashyati upalabhate. Gain knowledge of upalabdha. Upalabdha means the one who is gained upalabdru is the root. Or not root here, it's called pratipadikam. But not what is the seer, na antaratman. Rightly, Bhashyakara changes na antaratman to na antaratmanam. It has to be Dvitiya Vibhakti, doesn't see the antaratma, the nature of I. ityarthaha. So, this is natural. A question that arises, if this is the way it is natural, why is the second line in this thing saying Kashchit dhiraha pratyagatmanam aikshat avrita chakshur amritatvam icchan? Why does he want to go against the flow? Whole world is going because that's the nature of the senses. Why do a few people fight against this current? Why did that one young boy in Plato's metaphor fight against the entire community and go looking for something else? Bhashyakara talks about this in some detail, which we'll look up in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.